Behind every boxing legend is a rivalry that made them legendary to begin with. Every winner needs a loser. Every yin needs a yang. In this video, we're naming the greatest boxing rivalry from every fight total. Of course, we gotta start at the bottom. What is the best fight to never happen? Not only that, which pair had the most beef between them and could have been a great fight? There are many great fights that never happened, including Mike Tyson versus George Foreman, Juan Manuel Marquez versus Eric Morales, and Evander Holyfield versus Vitaly Klitschko. But in my opinion, one of the greatest fights that never happened was one that almost happened but ended up fumbling, and that's the battle between Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua has been a top competitor in the heavyweight division for his entire career. A fight between these two might be considered the biggest matchup in British boxing history. Rewinding back to December of 2020, Anthony Joshua defeated Kubrat Pulev in the 9th round via a TKO, allowing Joshua to keep his unified heavyweight championship belt. This fight opened up new opportunities for Anthony, with the possibility of becoming the undisputed by taking on Tyson Fury. In the post-fight interview, Joshua said that he wanted a challenge. It's not about the opponent, it's about the legacy and the belt. Whoever's got the belt, he'd love to compete with him. If that's Tyson Fury, let it be Tyson Fury, it's no big deal. While Joshua thought it was no big deal, someone thought it was a big deal, and that someone is Tyson Fury. Because he immediately responded on social media and predicted that he would knock out Joshua within just 3 rounds. A few months later, in May of 2021, an announcement was made that the fight would take place on the 14th of August in 2021 in Saudi Arabia. However, Deontay Wilder exercised his option for a third fight with Fury in October of 2021, which ultimately stopped the bout between Joshua and Fury. The fight between Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury is one of the greatest fights to never happen, and that would have determined who was the best heavyweight boxer in the modern era. Tyson Fury is arguably one of the greatest heavyweight boxers of all time and holds an undefeated record of 32 wins, 0 losses, and 1 draw. Only time will tell if Joshua versus Fury will happen in the near future, but as of this upload, it has not happened and thus claims the spot. The greatest one-fight rivalry of all time has to be Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. This fight is considered to be the fight of the century, or the Battle of Greatness, which took place on May 2nd, 2015 in a super fight between undefeated 5-division world champion Floyd Mayweather Jr. and 8-division world champion Manny Pacquiao at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. The lead up to this fight was considered to be one of, if not the most anticipated sports events in history. This fight made pay-per-view history as well, as Money Mayweather's match against Pac-Man Pacquiao broke revenue records in the US with over $410 million in revenue, making this match the highest grossing pay-per-view in history. This rivalry between Manny and Floyd dates all the way back in 2009, with initial negotiations taking place between the fighters. However, the fighters were not able to come to an agreement. On February 20th, 2015, Mayweather announced that the fight was official and a contract had been signed for a fight to take place on May 2nd, 2015 at the MGM Grand. Floyd Mayweather Jr. defeated Manny Pacquiao after 12 rounds by unanimous decision, with all 3 judges in favor of Floyd Mayweather to remain undefeated in his career. According to CompuBox, Mayweather landed 67 more punches throughout the match, but Pacquiao himself thought he won the fight and deserved a decision over Floyd. The greatest 2-fight matchup has to be Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield. The first fight between Iron Mike and Evander the Real Deal Holyfield took place on November 9th, 1996, which resulted in Tyson losing the WBA title to Evander Holyfield by an 11th round stoppage. The rivalry continued the following year in June 28, 1997, as the highly anticipated rematch resulted in one of the most iconic and wild events in boxing history after Tyson bit off Holyfield's ear and Tyson was disqualified from the match. In that fight, Tyson began the 3rd round with an attack on Holyfield, and with just 40 seconds remaining in the round, Holyfield got Tyson in a clinch, and Tyson bit off Holyfield's right ear. The bite was so strong that an inch of Evander's ear was ripped off, and Tyson spat out the piece of the ear onto the ring floor. Holyfield, jumping in pain, managed to push Tyson away, and the match continued with 2 points deducted from Tyson. During another clinch later in the fight, Tyson bit Holyfield's left ear. This resulted in the match coming to an end and created post-fight unrest. Tyson went on a rampage at Holyfield while he was still in the corner. Although Tyson lost by disqualification, comment down below who you think would have won the fight had the fight continued. There have been many great trilogies in boxing history, such as Tyson Fury vs Deontay Wilder, Pacquiao vs Morales, and Sugar Ray Leonard vs Roberto Duran, but the greatest trilogy of all time is easily Muhammad Ali vs Joe Frazier. Muhammad Ali went on a 31-fight winning streak before facing Joe Frazier for the first time in 1971 and losing by unanimous decision in a 15-round match against Frazier. The second matchup took place on January 28, 1974. Ali came back to win against Joe Frazier in a 12-round bout, winning by unanimous decision. Ali's third fight against Frazier is said to be the most significant of the three. Known as the Thrilla in Manila, the third and final match between the two boxers took place on October 1st, 1975 at the Araneta Coliseum in the Philippines. Ali won by technical knockout after Frazier's corner asked the referee to stop the fight in the 14th round. Ali later revealed in an interview that this was one of his toughest matchups he's ever faced, and Frazier quit before he did and didn't think he could fight anymore. What do you guys think the outcome would have been if the fight actually went the distance? The greatest quadrilogy in boxing history is Manny Pacquiao vs Juan Manuel Marquez. The only 8-division world champion Manny Pacquiao fought in one of the greatest quadrilogy matchups in history against Juan Manuel Marquez. The first of 4 matchups took place on May 8, 2004 in a featherweight matchup ending in a draw. The second fight took place on March 15, 2008, resulting in Pacquiao winning by split decision in a featherweight matchup. The third fight took place on November 12, 2011, resulting in Pacquiao winning by majority decision. The fourth and final fight between the fighters taking place on December 8, 2012, with Pacquiao losing by knockout in the 6th round in a welterweight matchup. In their final matchup, Marquez defeated Pacquiao by knockout with 1 second remaining in the 6th round. Marquez finally proved his ability to learn Manny's style in the 4th fight and took advantage of Pacquiao's southpaw stance by throwing a right-hand counter to knock out Manny Pacquiao after Manny throws a jab at Marquez. Immediately after the punch landed by Marquez, Manny laid on the canvas unresponsive until the bout was over. It was named the Fight of the Year and Knockout of the Year by Ring Magazine. Each of the previous 3 fights between these boxers ended in controversy over the scoring of the matches. In their first matchup, Pacquiao knocked Marquez down 3 times in the opening round of their first fight, one judge scoring round 1 as 10-7 in favor for Pacquiao, as opposed to 10-6, which should have been the score for a 3 knockdown round. Pacquiao's 4-fight matchup with Marquez was significant, as this rivalry took place over the course of 8 years at multiple weight classes. And beyond the quadrilogy, there have been some fights that had a ton of rounds. Some of these matchups include Jack Britton and Ted Kid Lewis facing each other 17 times between 1915 and 1921. Sam Langford versus Harry Wills fighting 22 times in the early 1900s. And the record with the most fights between each other, this record belongs to Mike Sweeney and Danny Cripps fighting 63 times between 1906 and 1921. So here is the best boxing rivalry from every fight total. Let me know which rivalry is your favorite. Don't forget to knock out that like button and subscribe with notifications turned on. This has been Ringside Rewind, and we'll fast forward to you later.